Check, check.
Here she is. The Shanty cat.
Yeah.
Too bad for you guys who are only listening. You can't see how cute she's being. Long
day, huh?
It was a long day. It started out, get this, it started out with a water ski set.
Yeah, you are
I went water skiing this morning.
working it late into the season.
Yeah. Well, one of my ski buddies is John Trueblood, and he likes to ski until the water turns into ice. And
Yeah.
I don't like skiing quite that late. I'll go drive for him, but it's still pretty nice. You know, we went out this morning. I wore just a wetsuit. The water's 52 right now, so it's brisk. But
you described it as brisk. Yeah, I was
but
going
it
to say.
like makes you feel alive.
Yeah.
It's really not that cold. I mean, I have a wetsuit that doesn't let much water in. It's just a real form-fitting wetsuit.
Much, yeah.
I mean, not much. You get a little, and your hands and feet get a little cold. But it was so gorgeous. Just
Well,
total
the trees
glass.
have colored up.
Yeah, like pulling into the course on this glassy lake. I see the blue sky, and under that, the yellow trees, and then the lakeshore, and then below that, the yellow trees, and then below that, the blue sky. And
Right.
it's just spectacular.
Yeah.
So,
My favorite season. We were talking about it this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I realized this morning that this month is my 20-year anniversary since I retired from competitive water skiing.
Wow.
Because my last competitive season was 2003, and it was in Colorado, so we probably skied until about October.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
20 years.
I know. That is really something.
And I am still skiing on the ski that I bought in 1999. Maybe I'll buy a new one someday. The thing is, I want the best one.
Well,
I'm not gonna.
expensive.
I'm
They're
not gonna take a step down. I have the best one in 1999.
From 99, yeah.
And the best ones now are very expensive. So.
Yeah. Gosh, so what else is going on?
Oh, we have so much to talk about.
What a week, huh?
Yeah. And a lot coming up. So, I've been talking about this for a while. I don't know, because it's been coming up for a while. It's been on the calendar for a long time. But my first gig with Diamond Empire Band as a bassist. And that means it's my first gig as a bassist where I had not met the musicians nor rehearsed with them in advance. I've played gigs, of course, but I've told you how it went, and I gave Nate the rundown, but I want to talk about it on the podcast. So I think it went quite well.
I would say
for my first one,
under the conditions too, it went great.
Conditions.
Yeah,
that's what I want to talk about. So I got there super early. I was there right about when the first other musician was there setting up sound. I got myself set up. I had plenty of time to look at all of the songs on the chart, make sure I knew how to start them, just refresh my brain just right before the gig. So I just sat there and did that. No technical troubles. All my pedals were working. Everything was fine. Then we were ready to do sound check, and we were going to sound check with the first dance songs. And I did a quick little retune right before we started. And I was like, whoa, my bottom two strings are out a half step. That's really weird. Well, I'm standing in the sun in the window.
Right.
It was a west-facing window.
We've talked about that before.
Yeah, and so I was like, wow, I guess the sun took my bass out of tune. So I retuned, and then we started playing, and I sounded atrocious. I was hitting the half steps off, and then sliding up and being like, wait a minute, what? And so I retuned. I was like, okay, I'm in tune. And I was like, but it does not sound like it's in tune. And I just thought, oh my gosh, what's wrong with my bass? What's wrong with my bass?
Yeah.
So I switched basses because I brought an extra bass. And the problem persisted. So then I was like, okay, it's not the bass, it's the tuner. Right. Fortunately, I had another tuner on another pedal, so I could just switch over to that. I was like, oh man, the tuner I've used always just did not correctly tune the low two strings.
Yeah, and it's the Boss TU3. I mean, that's like a standard...
Pretty standard pedal, yeah. So anyway, I got that fixed, and then we took a little break, and then I came back about 7 or 8 minutes before we were going to hit to make sure I was in tune and that everything worked, that all the pedals still worked, and I couldn't get any sound. And I was like, what? like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And so I switched cables. I mean, I'm like unplugging stuff. I'm like, okay, there's what, 6, 7 pedals. I'm like doing process of elimination. I'm like, okay, let me plug it in here. Let me back it up. Let me plug it in here. Is it this cable? And sometimes things that I changed would work. Then I would get some sound. Like, okay, it must have been that cable between these 2 pedals that's bad. But then I would like, lean forward and make some other change, and then I would lose sound again. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm going crazy. So I did switch the pedal, the cable between my bass into the pedal board in case that would, the main cable was, I was just troubleshooting everything.
Yeah.
So finally I figured out that it was the jack on the bass. It was a little bit loose. And so it wasn't really the cable's issue. It was the way that the cable was if I just, when I was doing all that moving around, wearing the bass, I was jiggling it one way or the other, so it was on or off. So figured that out, just dealt with it the rest of the night. It only went out in one song, so that was okay.
Yeah, and that's the worst thing are intermittent problems.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like if something is just not working, that's kind of easy to track down what's not working.
Right.
But if it works sometimes, and like the intermittent things are just like, because then you don't know, you don't get much info about how to fix it.
So get this, I did more testing. You're about to say something.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I did more testing because I was going to take the bass into Spaceman this morning, but they're not open on Mondays. Mm-hmm. But I tested with 4 cables and 2 basses. One of the cables works just fine on both basses. Including the one that was giving me trouble.
Okay.
2 of the cables work just fine on the 4-string and have a little bit of nudginess, bit of crackle on the 5-string. And one of the cables also works fine on the 4-string. No. One of the cables is actually bad.
Oh, okay.
Only so I was probably,
multiple
and it's my newest cable.
Yeah.
It's my like I've only used it at like 15 gigs. My newest cable was probably also giving me trouble at the gig because that's the one I was using.
Yeah.
So I was dealing with both a cable issue and a jack issue.
It is. Yeah, I know. But you know what? That's how you get better at solving these things.
I know.
Is going through the...
I'm glad it happened. I'm glad I figured it out. I mean, like I told you, I was 6 minutes to downbeat and I couldn't get any sound. And I was like, I gotta call Justin. And then I was like, no. It's going to take longer to explain what's going on and like talk through the possible solutions
it would.
than to just buckle up and figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
Just do it. Just, you're logical. You can figure it out. So I did.
That's what you have to do. That's what you have to do. I mean, you gotta fight your way out of, those problems. And that's how you figure out, that's how you improve your troubleshooting skills. I talk about that a lot in classes I give. And that's just how you learn to kind of deal with, and roll with things.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, sounds like it went great. I was dying to ask, how were your cheap red pedal and synth bass?
The synth bass pedal was great. The cheap Zoom, let's see, I used it on TikTok and it sounded phenomenal.
Because you were nailing that tone on TikTok.
Yeah, it sounded great. It had a really good sound for I Want to Dance with Somebody, but I think I need to edit that patch. I'd already edited the patches and tried to make everything the same level, but it was still too loud and it was distracting me. So I just turned it off and just played normal. The amount of trouble I've gone to with the Helix amp modeler, like getting those patches to be even volume-wise is just an unbelievable. I mean, I've sat there with meters and like using my ears and just and then like sounds so good in the room at home.
Well, the mid-range content of sounds is what there's a thing called the Fletcher Munson curve that basically the amount of mid-range information wildly changes your perception of how loud a sound is. It's not really volume, and you can't really measure it electrically. Oh. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Luffs, attempt to deal with that, but it's always, but anyway, sounds like you did great. And
I would give myself a pretty good grade. I mean, far from perfect, but I wasn't expecting perfection, so I'm not stressing out about that. Songs started very quickly.
Yeah, you said they were just tearing through stuff.
So quickly. But I had printed out the set list and written the keys next to all the song names, so I could look at the next song while I was still playing the previous song. Because I knew that would be something, like I've got all the songs in order on my iPad, but if I'm playing a song, I can't switch to the next chart really easily. I might still need that chart, or I might be playing and I can't use my hand to switch the chart. So I wanted to be able to think ahead, and that served me really well, because sometimes I was... we were just like wrapping up and I was turning the page and I was hearing the count for the next and I was like, oh my gosh. And a few times, I've got some notes about where I put my hand on the bass, like which kind of fingering I want to use for the song. And a couple times I didn't even have time to read the notes. I just had to like get the picture in my head and put my hand there.
Yeah. We should put a pin in that and talk to Elwood about that, because I'm sure he has some good advice about like how you deal with that exact situation.
Yeah, we're gonna have Elwood on next week.
Yeah, Ryan will be with us.
Overall, I mean, like I said, I made mistakes, and I didn't play 24 karat magic nearly as well as I practiced.
You were nailing it at home.
Well, because I had moved my hand position from where I previously practiced it recently, and I just wasn't exactly sure about the new fingering. Yeah. I hadn't practiced the new fingering enough, and so I was just not super confident. So, I mean, I hung in with root notes plus a little decoration here and there, but...
Well, I mean, that's totally...
It was fine.
Yeah.
It was a boomy room anyway.
Yeah.
Just a big empty space. So anyway, that's enough
that was
about
Saturday
the wedding.
night. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm super happy
that
I did that, and one of the singers, Andrew, said that he would request to be on gigs with me. Again,
oh, that's great. Oh, wow. You didn't... Yeah, that's great.
Good feedback.
Yeah, wow.
Got to see Rachel Eisenstadt. She was the female lead.
Yes, she was the female lead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She used to work at Performance High. She just does her own studio now, and it was really great hanging out with her.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed Rachel and hanging out with her. And she's doing really well with her original band that's called...
Sugar Nova.
Sugar Nova.
Yeah.
I knew it was a flavor and an astronomy thing. Couldn't remember if it was like...
That's an interesting way to remember.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't... Yeah, Salt Red Dwarf. I don't know.
Salty Red Dwarf.
Yeah. It was a combination of two things. So, and then that was Saturday night, and then Sunday we had the acoustic showcase.
Yeah, the youth acoustic showcase. So it was like 3 youth, and then the rest a little bit older.
Was so blown away with the venue. We were Enigma Bazaar, which is on 38th. I guess technically it's probably Wheat Ridge, right? Yeah, it's probably in our town. Yeah. What a gorgeous venue.
Oh,
I
my
mean,
gosh.
The artistic, the wall paintings, and the
decor is just, it's bizarre and artistic and, a little mystical and spiritual.
Yeah, definitely.
It's a little meow wolf.
Yeah, it's a little bit of that kind of, and they had done the bar themselves with this like paintbrush, so it was like this spirally colorful. They had just, apparently, they were set to open on almost the exact time everything shut down for COVID a couple of years ago. So they had a ton of time to get real serious about decorating.
Yeah.
And that place used to be a bar called Ziggy's, which was a blues bar that was one of the first places I went to.
Oh, yeah.
When I moved out here and tried to... That had been my strategy in past moves, was to go to some blues jams and start meeting some people. And I went, I don't know, I probably went 4 or 5 times and never got up.
I remember you not liking
Denver's a little cliquey. But anyway, it used to be such a different place. They had carpet on the walls. It was like 4-sided carpeted for some reason.
What color was it?
It was dark color, like blue or black. I mean, you sort of couldn't tell. And of course you couldn't smoke in there then, but people had been smoking in there in past decades.
And when there's the whole thing got
it was sort of a Herman situation, Anyway, but now, Enigma Bazaar, we're going to be, hopefully we will be back there. And it was such a perfect venue for something like a showcase, and particularly the acoustic showcase.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've got to think Garrison, because we know everyone in the world watches this, so Garrison.
Garrison, I know you're watching.
Yeah.
The sound guy at Enigma.
Great sound guy. And also Carly, the owner manager. Yeah. What did you think? I thought it was the vibe was great. Everybody was having a great time.
I think that's the best venue we've ever had for an acoustic showcase.
Yeah.
By far.
And I think it showed in the audience, because we were talking about Muse, and we loved Muse, but it's a little bigger, and it's set up a little more classroomy as far as the chairs. This had more of like bistro restaurant seating, so you could kind of be spread all around.
Yeah.
And it was probably 50 people, but it felt very full.
Yeah.
You know? Whereas like some other places, 50 people does not feel full.
Right.
You know, even if the capacity isn't much more than 50, just the way the room's laid out, it feels, you know.
No, this was a home run venue. We're definitely going back there.
We're definitely going back there. I managed to run into, as I always do, I found a way to freak out about something. So my contribution was running the tracks, because a lot of the performers were either playing guitar themselves, or Ray Lynn backed people up on guitar and piano. And about, I don't know, a certain number of people were using backing tracks to perform, which is pretty standard at our acoustic showcases. And we got to one of the singers who had made a Spotify playlist for her tracks. And
all right.
On this playlist were the karaoke versions with no vocal, but also on that list was a 5-minute vocal exercise, and also the original tracks, which would have had the vocals. Yeah. She was doing a Linda Ronstadt tune, and then
Dancing Queen
by ABBA. Anyway,
yeah.
I like literally was looking at the set, and I was like, well, there's 2 more track songs left, and there's 5 songs on this playlist. Wait a second, what's going on? And so as she was introducing the song, I was figuring out which... I came within 5 seconds of hitting play on the real track with the real vocals, which would have not been the end of the world, because it's a showcase and it's all about figuring things out. But it certainly would have surprised the performer when the real vocal came in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was pretty nervous, too. I mean, she didn't look it, but I know she was, because she's one of my students.
My hand was over the space bar, and then it dawned on me that, like, oh, no.
Good save.
Yeah.
Good save.
So that was my bit of adrenaline for the whole thing. Yeah.
I really appreciate you helping, though. It was so much easier to MC and take some video while people were performing, and not also have to run over to the computer and
play tracks.
Oh my gosh.
But I thought so many of the young performers
they did so great.
Did better than I've ever seen them do it.
Yeah.
I mean, confidence growing. You know.
Yeah.
Aletheia.
Oh my gosh.
Unreal.
Brought down the house. Yeah.
Brought down the house.
Yeah.
And she's always been good, but I mean, for whatever reason, that afternoon she was just fearless. I mean, that's part of what was... It actually, from a performance perspective, there was a part where she got an applause break, and I, for the life of me, could not figure out why that was an applause break. It was in Vampire by Demi Lovato, and there's a... not a cappella thing, but sort of a bit of a little thing, and then the beat comes back in, and the room erupted in applause. And I was like, I think they were just enjoying what was going on so much. And there was a spot where she wasn't singing, so people clapped. I think it was as simple as that. But it sort of caught me in the moment. I was like, why is
she didn't do anything.
Yeah, she just kind of finished her line, and she sounded great, but it wasn't like some big, like, long note or some big whatever. Anyway, the showcase was so much fun. Yeah.
So...
You've got studio news.
Yes, I do. I have gotten lots and lots of complaints from a couple of my teachers about Studio 24, which is one of our Denver rooms at Sound Structure, because people smoke in that building, pot and cigarettes on the weekends. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
Because it's in the HVAC. It's in our room. Our room smells bad when you come in.
And you never notice it, like, during the week.
I don't notice it on Wednesdays. Partly, I don't think I smell things very well. I don't think I have a very good sniffer. But also, it's Wednesday when I come in, so it's had a couple days to clear out. Well, that's very much my point.
It's over the weekend that it seems to be an issue.
Gotten tons of complaints.
Yeah.
And so Raylyn, I was talking to Raylyn about it. I was like, I just don't know what to do. Like, I've been looking for other places for us to move to, and it's just nothing's coming up.
It's really hard.
It's just hard to find a place to make noise where you're not going to bother other people and blah, blah, blah. And she just threw out, well, maybe someone in the other building would switch with us. And I was like, okay, well, think about that. And, maybe I could put up some flyers. Maybe someone will want to switch one of those bigger rooms for one of our smaller rooms to save money.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about maybe like putting up some flyers.
Could have worked out. Yeah.
And the very next day, you saw people moving out of Studio 2. The next day.
The next day, they must have had an entire house worth of stuff. I mean, they had not the huge, long U-Haul truck, but the full-on box truck. Uh-huh. And it was full. I had that place must have been crammed to the ceiling.
It's a big room.
It's a big room, but still, it took them 3 or 4 days to and it was like 2 or 3 guys.
Oh my gosh.
Moving stuff all day.
Jeez.
Yeah, I have no idea. Anyway,
yeah, so I emailed the property manager and said, hey, is that room available? Because we'll switch. And so we switched, and I moved us over today.
Yeah.
So we are no longer in Studio 24. We are in Studio 2, which is the room next to where we have our band rehearsals. And I'm thinking we might use Studio 2 for band rehearsals, for showcase rehearsals. We
could. There's a lot less in there. It's a lot more open. Studio 1 is also where I do most of my recording and mixing and all that stuff. So it's great having those 2 rooms right next to each other because we can have a little bit more coordination about what's going on. There's a little sound leakage. I mean, it's not, perfect.
But the room is big and clean.
Oh, yeah, freshly painted.
Yeah, the carpet is freshly cleaned.
So that is exciting. Yeah. We're just going to take over that entire building eventually.
We are. I'm going to tell her if 3 and 4 open up, we'll trade 11 out and take 3 and 4.
Yeah. Yeah, the old green room. Remember?
So,
that's pretty exciting.
I'm tired though.
Yeah, I bet you are because you were moving all day and we had to move a couch over.
Yeah, I moved the entire room myself except you helped with the couch.
Right. Yeah. Because I was, again, working with Eric Golden. At the end of this month, we have our big recording day with Eric for his album. So we're really putting the final touches on some stuff and then still mixing Lee Clark Allen's album, which is turning out to be quite a project because it is an incredibly ambitious album. It is so many tracks and so much different stuff, and every song is just completely different. And some of them are very traditional R&B, pop R&B, D'Angelo kind of things. And some of them are throwback kind of, and then other ones are just weird sound experiments, which of course I love, but it is really an undertaking.
You can't really template that stuff.
Well, that's the thing. We were talking on another podcast about how it's like I got to just start using templates and I'm just going to use, to at least get myself started. And this stuff, every song is so different. There is no template would help you because just every single thing is different. Song to song. And I've been limiting myself a bit, at least using some of the same effects, just going I'm going to pick a palette of 5 effects, meaning reverb or echo or whatever, and just I'm going to make those stay the same. Mm-hmm. Partially to sort of tie the album together. That kind of thing can often really help with really diverse albums. I mean, I think people a lot of times stuff hangs together because it's the same vocal. Mm-hmm. And human beings are so tuned into the human voice that as long as it's the same singer, they don't really care that much about variations in style. It all sort of seems the same because they hear the same voice.
I see. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's plenty of albums you can look at that bear that out, you know.
Lady Gaga's album with, the one after the Poker Face album was like completely different.
Completely different, but you don't really think of it as that different because it's her voice.
Yeah, and all the songs on it, if I recall, are very different from each other. Like there's like a musical theater piece on that album, I think.
Harry Styles, all of his albums have been like 12 songs that are all in really different genres. Like one of them's a 70s album-oriented rock thing, and the next thing is like a Beck thing, and the next thing is like a total Justin Timberlake dance thing, but the same voice ties it all together. Ronstadt, I mean, to a degree, speaking of her, I mean, not that she has albums that are all over the map, but she's done like a mariachi album and an album of old-fashioned standards and an album of, and you sort of don't think of those things as, oh my God, they're all over the map, because it's her voice the whole time.
Yeah.
So you sort of like, you know, anyway, I think additionally hearing those same spatial effects, it keeps the album sounding like it's all happening in the same physical space.
Yeah, okay.
You know, because it sort of tricks your ears a little bit to be like, oh, that's all of those sounds are coming from the same place, even if they're very different.
Yeah.
That's not really how it works. That's just an easy way to explain that. Anyway, let's talk about next week, man, because we are just ripping through it.
Oh my gosh, yeah. This week, you've got a gig with Half Zen on Friday.
Yeah, Half Zen Friday. Yeah, so that'll be fun.
Do you want to say anything about that?
It's the second gig with this lineup, and so that will be an interesting thing. A lot of new material. That's going to be the real wild card of the show. Out of, I think we're going to do maybe 14, 15 songs. 3 of them are brand new, as in we just got finished writing them.
Oh.
And I would say one of them doesn't even have all the guitar parts sorted out.
Okay.
So we've got rehearsal tomorrow and then the show Friday, and we will sort it out. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you know, it's interesting, too. We were talking so much, we were like laboring so much about that show, about how long it should be. It's just one band. And we were going back and forth. Do you do 2 shorter sets? Do you try to push out to like 75, like a one set, 75 minutes? And we wound up going with one set that probably will be about 70 minutes.
Yeah, that feels good to me.
Feels like about the most you could do, because the other thing that you got to watch out with a lot of shows, and this is an original band, so it, you know, whatever, your concern with taking an intermission is that people will leave.
Right.
Because they'll go, oh, okay, we saw it, you know. Yeah. So it was like kind of a toss up between what do you do.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I think it's a good call to not take a break.
I think it probably is. And then on the other hand, once you start getting past an hour 15, it is very hard for anybody to maintain there.
Yeah.
No matter how good it is, you know, it's just like, I'm kind of getting to be a long time.
Yeah, and all of this is going to be new music to people's ears, more or less.
Right,
so,
yeah.
You know.
There's some people that will have heard some tunes, but in general, with original music, people don't know the music, so it's, you know.
Yeah, you don't have that tailwind.
And one of the things when you go see an artist that is already really big, or a tribute act like we do, part of what keeps you hanging in is you know they're going to do American Girl eventually, because they have to do American. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're going to do the big hit, and that sort of keeps you engaged because you know they're going to do it. You're like, is this going to be the time they do it? You know?
Yeah.
And so, but if you don't have that big song you're waiting for, you're
kind of like,
there's a different, it's a different equation as far as how interested you are. And you've got some more bass gigs coming up.
I do.
Yeah.
So Brian, our ex-drummer from Petty Nicks, and our friend who's going to be on next week.
Current drummer for all the other things we do.
Yeah. I mean, he drums for Eric.
Yeah.
Eric Golden. He invited me on 2 gigs this weekend. One of them is Saturday night. It's for guitar students of Chris Bloom.
Right.
Who does Strum and Sip. So it's like a student recital kind of thing.
Also a great studio guy. Look at Chris Bloom.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he's produced Sammy Davis, for example. Not Sammy Davis like from way back, but Samantha Davis.
Our Sammy Davis.
Our Sammy.
Not the Jewish Sammy Davis.
So that's going to be super easy. It's just like some very typical songs. I was just, songs I already know vocally and I should know instrumentally, but I'm making charts anyway because I want to make sure I have like, where is there a break? Where do we go double time? Where do we drop? I just want to like have it laid out. And so I did most of that today because it's only a few songs. And then very next morning, I'm going to do my first church service.
You're doing a lot of early stuff.
So I have to drive back down to Castle Rock.
Ah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have 2 early mornings this week. So, yeah, this will be a fun new experience.
Right.
Doing a worship service.
Have you reviewed any of the worship material?
No, I just got access to it today, and I was moving the studio all day, so I have not.
Yeah. I think it's going to be pretty easy. I mean, that stuff is very...
I'm sure it will. Yeah.
Just pick a U2 song and play the U2 song. It'll probably line up perfectly.
And then we have a gig on Sunday together.
Do we? What are we doing Sunday?
Cody at Niecy's.
Cody at Niecy's. Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Are you ready?
Apparently not.
I need to sing because I'm going to be singing The Prayer and Uncomfortable.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and I haven't been singing.
Both of those are...
And those are
monsters.
vocal. Those are real vocal songs. I need to open my head voice back up for those.
Yeah, that is so great. Is Cody talking about doing his new set idea for this one at Niecy's?
Yeah.
Okay, so I need to review that. Okay.
I saw. Did you see the email?
I saw the email. I just hadn't.
I wasn't sure which gig that was for.
There were songs on there I didn't really recognize, or there's songs I recognize the name, but I don't really know the song. You know what I mean?
Maybe that was for the holidays. We should clarify what exactly the set list is for this one. Maybe it's the set we practiced.
It should be the set we practiced. I would think. I think it'll be that. Either way, we'll be fine.
I don't know.
We'll be fine.
But he asked me if I would sing those 2 songs this weekend.
Right.
Which we did not rehearse.
Okay.
So we'll have to double check.
All right. Well, we're going to have an update for you next week. We'll tell you how that goes.
I'm getting more and more comfortable flying by the seat of my pants.
It'll go fine. Yeah. That's
these songs are all rehearsed anyway. It's not like we need to rehearse them again.
Yeah. There's very, when I said I like recognize names of songs, it was some of the stuff that Cody would normally do. Not solo, but maybe with just piano accompaniment. So I know the song he's talking about, but I don't know it as in I can't call it up in my head because I don't play on that, Yeah. Anyway, what else you want to talk about?
Nothing.
What are you drinking, by the way?
Oh, you poured it for me. It's a grapefruit shandy.
It's a radler.
Oh, a radler. What's the difference between a radler and a shandy?
So a shandy is mixed beer and juice, whereas a radler is mixed beer and fruit soda. So instead of mixing actual grapefruit juice with your beer, you're mixing in grapefruit soda.
Okay.
And radler is the German word for cyclist.
Okay.
So I guess they call a bicycle something about rad. So if you're or pedaling or something, so a radler is a cycler. And apparently they became popular because they were on hot days, I guess. In bygone days, it was a big pastime to go biking around the country, and all these pubs and stuff in Germany would specifically make, basically it's a cocktail of a type, but it's half beer and half soda, so it's very low alcohol. You get a little sugar kick, a little fruity. Yeah. So cool. It's a little out of season, but the alternative was for that to stay in the fridge until summer, so figured I'd just foist it on you.
I'm enjoying it. I worked hard today. I moved that whole studio. There's a lot of stuff in our room. There's a lot of stuff in that Studio 24.
Well, we've been there for years and years.
It feels weird for that to not to be my space anymore.
It felt a little nostalgic. We're losing.
I know, but we're just getting a better space that's going to be my new space.
I know. Isn't change weird, though?
It is.
Yeah.
But I'm teaching in person 2 days a week now instead of just one. I dropped down to one after the pandemic. I was like, I really like not driving, so I'm just going to teach online Tuesdays, Thursdays. So now I'm teaching in person Tuesdays and Wednesdays because my Wednesdays just have
Well,
been,
they were just getting too long.
they've been like 8 hours solid, and that's exhausting as a
Yeah.
teacher. So I'm opening up Tuesdays, and they are already filling up. So I'll be spending
Yeah.
my Tuesdays and Wednesdays in that room, and I'm excited about it.
Yeah, that's great. Well,
done?
yeah, let's close it off.
We need to eat
Let's,
dinner.
Okay, so we are sponsored as always by Performance High.
Voice and Music Studio.
We are also sponsored by Enigma Bazaar.
Yeah.
Absolutely check them out.
Yeah.
And also check out Radlers.
Yeah.
In particular by Great Divide, which is a Denver-based.
Right. Sounds good.
Thank you guys, as always, for watching. And get ready. We're going to have lots of guests. So it's going to be super fun. And it's not going to be that fun. We'll see you next week.
Bye.